I believe that presentation pretty much covered the extent of what we discussed at the PRAC meeting. I think the one thing that was of note regarding, whether we have a minimum of 9, part of the reason for trying to encourage more participation by PRAC members in other city activities, meetings associated with the parks, and by potentially reducing the number of overall standard meetings, we may get more participation from individuals in other activities, maybe on the weekend. The other thing we noted was that this last year and a half, we kept running into conflicts with other important meetings that either staff had to participate in, planning meetings of one form or another, and we just kept hitting those conflicts that made it seem like a minimum of 6 was probably appropriate. We retained, as you see, the possibility that the vice chair, chair, and parks director can add meetings as necessary, so I think that covers just about anything we would need to do. The second, since there were 2 items mentioned that we took up that night, the other one is not part particularly of this proposal, but it's just a change in our meeting times, requesting that be moved in the bylaws from 7 to 10 o'clock, moved it to 6 to 9 o'clock, and that seems to accommodate the committee and the staff's needs a bit better than what we're currently doing. So, thank you.
Just put a statement in there saying that it will meet at a time that works for everybody, rather than specifying something. Because again, if you want to change it back, you've got to go through another. As time is agreed upon by the committee, that to me would have been a whole lot simpler. So what is your meeting schedule going to be now? Is it going to be every other month?
Not necessarily. It's going to be evaluated on a monthly basis the previous month to see what we have coming up, because there are a number of things that don't fit we talked about that every other month. Sometimes having concurrent consecutive meetings is better. So right now, we'll be looking at it a month in advance and deciding whether we're going to have a meeting the following month or not. That was what was decided.
Unfortunately, I think that's going to be a little confusing for the public, because they won't know from month to month whether you're going to be meeting or not. So that would just be a comment I would note. Commissioner Smith, please.
I'm confused as to, I understand the meeting that took place that the committee voted 8-0, and I understand that the 6 meetings was discussed as a minimum. If that's the case, then why isn't that what we're changing it to? Because the red line version crosses out any reference to a minimum and only states that, so it basically eliminates all references to any medium, whether it's 6 or 1 or 0. I have huge concerns about that.
It's attempting to reference to the bylaws, and then the bylaws are going to have the number of meetings in them.
And it says there it's 6. Because the bylaws aren't here then. All I see is the red line version.
The bylaws are going to be coming with the second reading of the ordinance at the next meeting at August 2nd.
It should all be here. Because if I look at this, the wording that we're voting on tonight is based on Exhibit A. There's no other wording that references 6 meetings other than Exhibit A, and it basically scratches out that there's a minimum of meetings at all. I have a problem with that. I also will say that we need more involvement in Parks and Rec, Advisory Committee and Parks. Not less. And I concede to 6 meetings is probably okay, but we need public input into parks more than any department that I know of right now. And I would also say, I guess I'm concerned that members of PRAC are not reading the bylaws prior to becoming members, because if they knew that, they would know going into it was 9 meetings a year, and you would know that that is the commitment. So I find it either people are just not knowing what the commitment is when they start on the committee and then want to change it later. I don't know. So I guess I want to see it in writing that it says,
You want to hold this over?
well, I'm not going to vote for it because
Well, no,
I
let's
don't
hold
think
it
there's
over.
enough information
Let's
here
hold
to
it over
vote on.
then. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Well, I'll just say, I agree with Commissioner Smith that we need to have more engagement, but I think that part of the reason why this change is being proposed is to do that and to be more outward facing toward the community rather than just staying in the commission chambers and having conversations sometimes. It's also just as effective to get out at the community, be at the concerts in the park and at other community events.
I agree.
At the last concert in the park, I was talking to Ms. Sebastian about this, and I was really excited at the prospect of having a more outward-facing PRAC, which, again, to your point, needing more community input, it's often better for us to go to the people rather than asking them to come to us. I do have concern, so it was originally a minimum of 9?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
I don't have a problem with moving it to a minimum of 6. I concur with the mayor over concerns about maybe having the irregularity of determining it month to month, but for the most part, I support this and I support the vision for what this is trying to accomplish.
Yeah, having been on PRAC, they don't generally face deadlines the way other bodies do. And I guess, yes, I agree, we want more public input, but new topics don't crop up all that often. And so you end up at a lot of meetings, having a meeting just because the schedule says you need to have a meeting. So I can support 6 meetings a year. So that, just to be clear though, that the ordinance to approve the bylaws calling for 6 will come back to us, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I guess I'm questioning why there's no reference to a minimum of 6 meetings in any of our packet tonight. Because the red line crosses out the minimum altogether. So whether it references or not, we're not seeing the other piece of it.
Is there an
It's
issue
another
with,
incomplete
is there an
packet
issue
from
coming
Holmes.
back, bringing us both of the ordinances at the same meeting?
No.
Okay.
The bylaws aren't an ordinance. so
Right.
That'll just come to the commission to be approved. We're proposing this because we have to change the Oregon City Municipal Code. That's why this is being brought to you in an ordinance with the red line. So right now, Chapter 2.58.010, 0.050 meetings, specifically in the Oregon City Municipal Code, says the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee shall meet a minimum of 9 meetings annually at a time and place selected by the committee. So proposal is to remove from Chapter 2.58050 of the municipal code so that it would read, the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee shall meet at a time and place selected by the committee and in adherence with committee bylaws approved by the city commission. So the ordinance is to change Section 2 of the municipal code. The bylaws would just be approved under general business. They don't need an ordinance to approve the bylaws.
Other comments?
So we're amending the municipal code so that we are able to approve the bylaws. Okay, separately.
We can't bring the bylaws with 6 when the municipal code says a minimum of 9.
Right.
What's your pleasure? Is there a motion? Postpone, whatever, what would you like to do?
Did you want to say something?
Just my formal training is when one document references another, it's called drill down, and all documents are present for your review.
Right, because
So that's-
we're having to make the assumption that Park's going to bring us back bylaws that say this. And I don't trust that necessarily to happen. I want to see it together in complete package. That's what we have to look at. So I'm still going to vote no.
We just forward this to the first meeting in August, please? And
I
we will
couldn't
have,
understand you. What?
I'm requesting that we continue this item to the first meeting in August, and we'll bring the bylaws so that the first reading can occur with the bylaws.
I think that would satisfy everybody.
Okay, so we're continuing this? Is that,
That's my request.
gentlemen? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so in continuing with the moving the agenda around, I'm going to go back to the agenda and, hang on just a quick second here, get to my second page. I'm going to move 9C to 9B. So we have a request for subordination of lien for deferred SDC agreement for Holmes Lane. Mr. Conkle.
Sorry. I'll have Mr. Zook come up as well.
Mr. Zook, would you like to come up as well?
So this is a request that the City Commission received. The developer has requested for the city to take the second lien position for deferred system development charges loan on Holmes Lane development to allow developers construction lender to take first lien position. From a financial perspective, Oregon City Municipal Code and Oregon Revised Statutes preemptively protects the city financial position by claiming the first position in a lien. Staff recommends the commission maintain that first position. We received a request from the developer on June 23rd of 2023 to take a secondary lien position to the developer's construction lender that may finance the vertical construction. The request was presented to the City Commission as written public comment at the July 5th meeting. The City Commission directed staff to present this request with a staff report at the July 19th meeting tonight. The request is included separately with this report. The developer has been notified of this request, that this is on the City Commission agenda and has been invited to attend, and I believe he is here tonight. Since this request would be a deviation from City Code, staff is presenting this request to the Commission. The residential development at 535 Holmes Lane is approximately 3.8 acres to be built, approximately 60 condos. More detailed information on this development can be found on the city's website. The SDCs on the project are approximately 1.97 million. The developer was presented with a system development fees financing agreement on June 6th of 2023 for a term of 10 years at 9% interest, $25,000 monthly payments. This agreement has not been signed as of the date of this report last week. The city recognizes and appreciates the current challenging economic environment. One of the risks the city has with this project is that over $500,000 of infrastructure required from the builder remains in process. A construction bond is in place from the developer for surety for this work. At present, the city has 15 deferred SDC agreements totaling approximately 1.1 million with deferring maturity dates. To my knowledge, the city is in first lien position of all these agreements. Oregon City Municipal Code, Section 13.20.080D states the city finance director shall docket any lien in the lien docket. From that time, the city shall have a lien upon the described parcel for the amount of the unpaid SDC together with both interest on the unpaid balance at the standard legal rate and any actual costs incurred as a result of the deferral. The lien shall be enforceable in the manner provided by ORS Chapter 223 and shall have priority over all of the liens to the extent allowed by applicable law. Thus, staff holds that all existing SDC agreements have liens that are in the first position. That concludes the presentation. Be happy to answer any questions. And obviously with Mr. Kehoe here tonight, who recommend the commission hear from as well.
Did you want to add anything to that, Mr. Zook?
I think his presentation was complete. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Mr. Kehoe, now we're at the right number. I apologize before. I just looked at your number 4, so.
Thank you. No talk?
Yes,
Okay.
go right ahead.
All right, well, thank you. So the reason we're asking for the city to take a secondary position against the lender, which the SDC would be in favor of it would be superior to the lender after we complete the project, because we would put a new loan on it and it would be a permanent loan. It just helps us get financing and get the project started. Otherwise, like I said earlier, with the banking situation the way it is right now, equity is doubled, interest rates have doubled, and the difficulty of getting these off the ground is just massive. What I'm asking for is just, I don't know how much of a difference it really is in the project, in the purpose of things, because we need to, once again, the project will be completed within the year, and then when we go for permanent financing, the SDCs will be, would have to come first. They're like a tax lien that would be in front of any lender. But just for the time period of getting the project completed, it helps us do it all at once as opposed to building the project out slowly as funds are available and as we can do it. So it's a huge help in a big project like this with big service development charges. So I'll answer any questions.
Questions? I guess, part of where I think the city's coming from is that, we're not a bank. And you're asking us to defer funding that is basically, we're basically the policy people, but basically the deferred SDCs will come back to the city as the project gets completed, and that goes back into the pot to do other projects, which is on behalf of the community. I would say, under other circumstances, this might be considered, but this is not the Urban Renewal Agency or anything. They can't bond for liens anyway. So it's just tough because we're not a bank. And that's probably the biggest problem I have with it.
Well, you're deferring anyway.
Well, but we have statutory authority to do that.
Right.
Under the ORS.
But you also have authority to, you also have the authority to have the SDCs take a subordinate position to the loan. And that's what we're asking. We're definitely deferring. We wouldn't be able to, if we had to pay $2 million in SDCs, we couldn't do the project up front with the loan. We just wouldn't be able to. But by deferring it, it gives us the chance to do it. But with all of the lenders that are out of the market right now, there's no banks that are loaning money on these projects. It's only debt and equity funds and hedge funds. No banks. So instead of paying, 6.5%, 7% interest, we have to pay 13% interest in order to get these projects going. It's just a great deal of difficulty. And we're taking advantage of the 10-year deferral, but all I'm asking is that the city allow the SDCs to be secondary to the primary lender, and then they will become subordinate when the project is as soon as the project is completed. That's all we're asking.
But it's a lot. So is Mr. Zook or Mr. Conkle, it's really not that simple as I understand it.
I'm sorry.
I said it's really not that. It's not that simple that after a year we're in first position and then we are subordinate. So
I think what's being described here is that at that point the construction loan is complete, correct?
It's almost complete.
Jacob, you can cut the timer off.
It's almost complete.
Gentlemen?
Well, for me, it's pretty straightforward. We've operated under the municipal code and the ORS from a financial perspective. I don't believe in placing us in a subordinate position, period. I've seen that in private life, and I'm not interested. This is a known arena of operations to everyone, and I'm not willing to make a waiver on it. I don't believe we ever have historically, and I'm not prepared to do it tonight.
Mr. Mitchell?
I agree with Commissioner O'Donnell. We have an obligation to protect the taxpayers' assets, and monies owed to us in the form of SDCs are an asset to the city, and I don't think we should take second position.
Mr. Morrow?
I would agree, and I don't have much to add. We also need to be, while being mindful of growth, we need to be mindful of the residents who already live here. and are dealing with the crumbling infrastructure that we already have.
Mr. Smith?
I move to deny the request.
Second.
Yes, this has been moved and second. I'll add one more comment. Again, I am not unsympathetic to the request. I am aware that the property is for sale. That was forwarded to me by another party, and I don't have any issue with that either. Part of the thing is that this is not something that we have traditionally done. It doesn't mean that we can't do it, but then where does it end? So you ask, then the next developer comes in, and then we have the city in a second position for everything. Again, as I said, I'm used to being involved in transactions that involve a jurisdiction being in second position, but it's an urban renewal agency. And that's something that they typically will do with guarantees and that sort of thing. And I guess part of, even though it's all bonded, I'm feeling uncomfortable that there is no other surety that goes along with this. I don't know what the bank is requiring. And I am very, very sympathetic, but I just feel uncomfortable in putting the city in this sort of position. And I appreciate that you came and asked because we needed to look at this, but I'm just uncomfortable. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, I understand, and I appreciate your service. Thank you.
All right, so we're on to resolution number 2321, adjusting solid waste collection and disposal rates effective September 1, 2023. And is that, Dante, please come on up. Thank you so much for being here. This is the public work show tonight.
So here with me is Will and Pam Bloom from B&B Leasing. Like you said, Mayor, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name's Dante Posadas. Oh, right, sorry.
Is it working?
Yeah, I think it's working. So good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name's Dante Posadas. I'm the right-of-way and construction manager for the city. I oversee the solid waste division for the city, and tonight we will be presenting on the solid waste and disposal rates adjustment for September 1st, 2023. Like I said, Will's here with me. If you have any questions throughout the presentation or after the presentation for B&B or for me, feel free. So I'm just going to go through this. So to begin with, a little overview of our solid waste regulation. Today, we have to abide by state statutes. State Statute 459 allows the city to establish a franchise authority. And State Statute 459A goes through all of the different programs a city our size has to abide by regarding state watershed and DEQ regulations. And then also, because we are in the metro watershed, we also have to abide by the Metro Regional Waste Plan, which also has some connections to this transfer station and has some connections to the programs we implement within the city. As far as our city code regulation, our city code establishes our franchise in Chapter 8.20. That was established with B&B Leasing. It is a reoccurring franchise that gets renewed on a 7-year term, and the code also outlines the franchise conditions, rates, how we establish rates, what type of programs we establish, things along those natures. And that's next slide. So to establish rates, what we go through is the city code outlines the different parameters, the cost of service, anticipated cost of service. So throughout the years, we've added things like Recycle Plus, added things like food waste. All of those things are calculated to look at the cost of those services, different equipment needs, reasonable rate of return. We worked that out with the county and the hauler, just ensuring that we're all abiding by the same rate of return that the county establishes. We also compare our rates to the other municipalities around the metro area. Our rates here in Oregon City are pretty favorable because of our proximity to different transfer stations and our longstanding relationship with our haulers, or with our hauler. And the other things that need to be considered are CPI, local wages, and different beneficial services that the community would like to see. So this resolution specifically is asking for a 9.5% rate adjustment. That is a $2.85 monthly adjustment to a 35-gallon cart size, which is the typical user within Oregon City. Around, I think, 67% of our residents are 35-gallon carts. And then commercial residents, or commercial users, I'm sorry, typically use the 2-yard container size, and that container size will be going up $21.81 a month. And that is like, again, it's around 60% of the commercial users use the 2-yard container size. Here in the little chart, we have the difference in cost breakdown for residentials. So as you see, our proposed rate for a 35-gallon is $32.81. It is the lowest in the metro area. The next closest is Canby, and I think those are proximity to Metro South transfer station is the difference in cost there. But also, if you look at it closely, you can also see that the 20-gallon is very low compared to a lot of the other cities. So there's differences in the market there. Next slide.
Can I ask a quick question? You said
Yes, ma'am.
65% of the users in our service area are 35-gallon?
That's rough, yeah, but it's around 60 to 65% use 35 gallons.
How many use 20?
I don't know that off the top of my head, Mayor. I just had, I knew the big percentage because it's a cost thing. So I will get that information and I can definitely email it to you.
So I would say that basically from what I see, even though you've got 4 sizes, I would say the top 3 are probably equally divided throughout the community. And it would be interesting to know what the percentage is. So obviously if it's 65%, and using 100%, then there are other rates are divided between those 2. And then probably a small, I don't know anybody in my neighborhood that uses a 90-gallon, but probably they're out there somewhere.
Very few 95 gallons. Usually if you have, like my family of 5, you'll have a 95 gallon, but most people have taken advantage of the lower rate at a 65 gallon or even a 35.
Just curious.
No, it's fine. Thanks for the question. So reasons for the rate adjustment, the big main reason is Metro's transfer station is raising their rates. They will be raising their rates effective, it's already effective, July 1st. The rate change is 11.2%. They are going from $123.45 a ton to $137.30 a ton. That is the big kind of cost burden because we are doing around 23,000 tons annually in Oregon City that we go to the transfer station with. Other things are the fuel price increase. Everybody has a car and sees how gas is expensive nowadays. And then the recycle market, it has gone up in the last year and a half. So there's the whole transferring our recycle to different areas and how that cost affects our solid waste hauling. And then the consumer price index is 6.5% in 2022. And I think other things are labor cost and things like that. So final slide is, so we have new services. In the last couple of years, we've brought on a couple of new services in Recycle Plus that allows homes to call in B&B leasing, and they will come out and do a pickup of these items. The items are textiles, clamshells, plastic films, plastic bags, and fluorescent bulbs. We're also picking up batteries in the recycle cans. Those go in a plastic bag and get taped into your recycle can, and those will be picked up also. And along with our city code of food waste requirements for businesses, the Group 1 implementation was March 2022. Group 2 and Group 3 implementation will be coming at the end of 2023, December. So those are the main reasons for our cost rate adjustment. If you have any questions, B&B's been our hauler for a long time. I think they outdate a lot of the rules and regulations that we have, but I think they've still done a good job keeping up our services and keeping up our programs, and we're all working together to get within state regulation and metro regulations. So if you have any questions, please let us know.
I'll start down at the,
Thanks.
to my left.
There's not been an increase since 2021, so if you spread that 9.5% over that 2 years, it doesn't seem unreasonable to me. I want to say one thing, and I'm not suggesting to upset the apple cart tonight, but when I look at something that I would love to see considered, when I look at the sizes, the chart that you had up with the different size containers, it's almost like we're giving people an incentive to throw away more, because the price of the container, as the containers get larger, there's a very little difference. I would love to see some way that there's more of a penalty for throwing away more garbage. I was just doing some quick numbers. That 23,000 tons, that's 1,200 pounds per person per year. That's a big pile of stuff. And, you know, we're running out of room to put it. And so just food for thought.
I love the idea.
Not to change anything tonight.
No, absolutely.
I love it.
We will welcome that in the next rate change, or even if the direction is to do it now, we'll try to figure something out.
Yeah, just one quick question. Can you go over those numbers again, what the metro rate was and what it's going to be?
So the metro rate,
137.
the metro rate in 2022 was $123.45. In 2023, it will be $137.30. Since 2020, it's gone up like 35%. It was $98.35 in 2020. So their rate has increased dramatically.
Thank you.
And disposal is our largest cost component by far.
So that's for mixed solid waste. So that's not for clean wood, not for yard debris, not for residential organics or anything like that. It is for mixed solid waste.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Well, I have known B&B since before I was a commissioner. I served on something called the Rate and Fee Committee, and I listened to them then, and I remember a former mayor saying when the owners had to come in and ask for a significant price, he said, please come in and ask incrementally and do it as you go. And when I look at the cost of operations having gone up, whether it be fuel, equipment, personnel, if you look at the Metro South thing alone, that's an 11% increase. They didn't even cover that in what they're asking for. So in my mind, in the world of, and plus the additional services they now offer, not even counting, green disposal like grass and cardboard and recyclables and stuff. So when I look at the bills that I pay every month in the world of services provided to citizens, this is a best buy, and I've got no problem approving what I see here tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, and I will say the same thing. Have no issues with the rate increase. The partnership with Oregon City and B&B has been going for a long, long time and has always been a great partnership, and have always been fair with the rate, so.
I don't disagree. So my questions start off with, how do I get the purple box? I don't have one. Obviously, I want one.
Well, we'll get Esther to set you up.
Okay, I'll call Esther. Esther's my, she's, call Esther, she'll take care of it. Some of the things that, could you go back to that slide? So some of the things on that list, I am hoping. Yeah, the recycle plus. So I am hoping, I'm not sure, but maybe you can tell me in a later meeting. I know that the state law passed that they are outlawing the styrofoam containers, and I cannot wait. Because I think that they are really wasteful. The other thing is that we've got those clear clamshells, and I think those are a little bit of a problem. So I'll just say for the record, I am a 20-gallon can person. So I think that Mike's onto something, because I think the less that you throw away, we compost at home, and so I can't wait for the residential food waste. So we have a black container that we got from the county, and we do composting at home. So I try to, for me personally, try to minimize as much as I possibly can. If there are 3 bags in my can, it's pretty rare. I probably have 2 small bags. Sometimes because I'm picking up trash in the neighborhood, I might have a 3rd bag. But I think, Mike, you're onto something. Apartment complexes are a completely different story, and I go by some of the apartment complexes and I see some of the stuff out there that gets thrown away, and my mind just gets exploded, because I'm thinking, why is this sitting here? Again, that's the multiple family recycling program. I think the county needs to step that up to get to these people to say, look, you're part of the stream too, and you move out, you can't just leave everything that you own. And then there are our lovely residences, and if you're out there, sorry, but people leaving stuff on the curb somewhere on a main street that somebody's supposed to magically take away. I've seen couches, big screen TVs, somebody comes by and busts in the screen, what do you do with that? So please don't do that. Please call the appropriate party and get them picked up, and don't leave them on the curbs on Malala or 7th or wherever they're leaving them. So I think, to take your comment one step further, Mr. Mitchell, Commissioner Mitchell, I agree with you. I think that we should start, and I'm not speaking for myself, I think we should start incentivizing people who are trying to do the right thing and keeping stuff out of the waste stream. And that's a bigger topic, because it has to do with shopping and all of that, and what you're buying and what you're sending. And our industry, unfortunately, is not very good at, we're overpackaged. Everything is overpackaged. It drives me crazy. But is that something that could be considered? I'm not saying, I know you said, well, if you want us to change it now, I don't know if that's going to be helpful, but it's something I think we need to take a look at, and maybe we can make an amendment. Can we amend this in a year or so and say, hey, we've figured out how we could do this to make it an incentive for people who use less garbage and take less,
I think we can come back in a year with a different rate structure, looking at that particular theme and seeing how users and how the economics work, to see what we could do
Thank you, Mike,
better.
for bringing it up, because it was kind of something I thought about too.
So
Anyway, I will say, to continue what you said, I have just been, over the years that I've lived here, which is now really a lot, been impressed with our garbage service. It is all the new things that you've taken on, your commitment to the community as a company, the commitment to the region, working these things out with Metro and with the county. And they have a great recycling program too. Again, we'll get them to step this up a little more. But I think Oregon City is doing its share to be equitable, and I don't have any issue with the rate structure. I think it's fair, and I know we probably wouldn't be here, but we had a presentation earlier that we knew Metro was going to change the rate. So, and I understand all of that. So I really, again, thank you so much for all you do for the community. This is reasonable. If you wanted more, I'd say yes, go. I'd be supporting more, but we're looking at our community as well, and everything we can do to sort of minimize the amount of stuff going out to Boardman and Arlington. But the region has to do its share. It can't just be us, so we all have to do that. But
I move to approve resolution number 2321, adjusting supplemental collection disposal rates effective September 1st, 2023.
Second. Roll call.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell? Aye. Commissioner Adam Morrow?
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith?
They're calling you.
You're up.
Aye.
Okay.
Yes, aye.
Sorry.
And Mayor
Sorry.
Denise McGriff.
Aye. I
Motion
think he did it telepathically.
I don't know.
I didn't know we were having a race.
He did it telepathically.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
Thanks
it.
for the kind words.
All right, last but not least on the agenda tonight is item number, now going to 9D, Memorandum of Understanding for Sports Fields. And Jonathan, thank you so much for being here, filling in. Mr. Conkle.
So tonight, Mr. Waverly will be presenting the revised Memorandum of Understanding with the Oregon City Youth Sports and the Oregon City Soccer. As you may recall, we held a work session, several meetings concerning the Memorandum of Understandings with these organizations that utilize our fields and facilities. So in the proposed draft, based on the discussions at the work session, we have prepared the Memorandum of Understandings for both organizations with a $3 per hour per field fee for the commission to consider.
Anything you want to add, Jonathan?
No, we're just here, and if you guys have any questions or concerns or anything, I think that, we're committed to continue to work with Oregon City Youth Sports and Oregon City Soccer Club to utilize our fields the best ways that we possibly can, so.
Were they notified to be here tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Without seeing any support letters from either of the two organizations, or without having anything in the report explaining the work that's been done with both organizations to come to this memorandum of understanding, I have no awareness that there was any negotiation with these two groups other than to just come back with another proposal. If I'm wrong, tell me or show me.
We're seeking the approval to move forward. We halted all memorandums of understanding. That was kind of the point that we were at, and we discussed the fees, and now we're seeking to move forward with the negotiations of the memorandums of understanding. And I think that with Oregon City Youth Sports and Oregon City Soccer, it's going to be a back and forth, and we'll come to an agreement before all memorandums of understanding are signed.
Further comment?
Yes. So when you read this report, it says that this MOU is effective upon the signing of the parties. The copy provided to us is unsigned. I know it doesn't. I spoke with Oregon City Youth Sports. This MOU, it really doesn't reflect how youth sports operate. They talk about cancellations and scheduling, and it's such a complex MOU that I think it's going to require pretty extensive administration by both the city and any sports organization. Another thing is, I don't see, why make it for 1 year? 1 year, and then we'll be back here in another year. Why don't we do a 3 to 5 year agreement that we can agree upon and put this thing to rest? And I know there's a power differential between the city of Oregon City and any youth sports organization, because the city has it, the youth sports want it. So, I don't know if this was a collaboration or a dictation. And you say we're going to move. You're asking us to approve something, but I honestly feel, if what you said is correct, there needs to be a collaboration before any agreement is signed that what works for both parties. And I don't see this And I see this being labor intensive on the part of the city and labor intensive on the part of the sports organizations. A short-term thing that we'll see again in less than a year. I think this thing, my advice would be do nothing tonight, sit down with these organizations, refine this agreement to make it more user-friendly and less demanding of personnel, and then come back. So I read it, and I'm not prepared to move forward with it as written. Thanks.
Anybody else have any comments before I go back? We did agree on the $3 fee. We said that we made that decision. So I recall us doing that.
Well, I don't know if we did agree on that.
Yeah, we did.
I think that's why we're
I agreed
bringing,
with you.
What?
Yes, we did do it.
we had a discussion in a work session, and there seemed to be consensus at an amount. It seemed to be $3. So we put $3 in here to be brought back in a regular meeting for the commission to vote and provide us the direction on what the fee per hour is going to be, whether it's $0, $3, a different hourly rate. But at some point, we need that direction in an official capacity because, you know, the last discussion was in a work session where we don't make decisions.
That's right. As we well know.
Yep. So that's what we're bringing this
We'll poll the
forward.
commission and see who's at $3 and who's at $0.
I've got a question. I just want to make sure of something that I'm reading. So with all of the hours that are listed on both of those agreements, at $3 an hour, bottom line on the staff report, budget impact $12,964 based on 2022, 2023 reservations.
Mm-hmm.
So if we implement both of those agreements and they use the hours that are listed there, it's going to raise $13,000?
That's correct.
Based on historical,
Based on, okay.
yeah, similar usage.
So I'm really torn. I still believe philosophically that there is a value to being able to reserve park space. But $13,000 isn't worth arguing over. So
I think you'll spend more than that administering the program.
that would be my concern.
That's what I think, looking at it.
I'm not going with $0. It costs something.
I'm not saying
And
zero.
you and I were in agreement,
Yeah,
at least consensus
yes.
for a number.
Yeah, exactly. But the first time I have seen a figure as low as $13,000 is tonight.
Well, my rationale for supporting this isn't because of any funding that's going to be coming into the park system to fix everything, because I recognize that that's not going to be the case. The reason why I support this, which is the rate that Commissioner Mitchell suggested at our work session, is for the reason that was just alluded to right there. I think that there ought to be, some sort of way to signify the reservations there. And nobody on this dais disagrees with the importance of youth sports. I participated in Oregon City youth sports growing up here. And so nobody is disagreeing with that. It's just a matter of best practices in parks and recreation where you look at every other community that does this at a much higher rate. And again, like I said, I'm not looking to nickel and dime our residents. It's not for me about how much is going to be filling our coffers. It's about the philosophy of it.
And I would again respond that I think the cost of administering this is going to exceed the revenue generated. And I also would say that there are some things in the function of a city or any governmental organization that do not have to be cost justified, do not have to be a zero sum, do not have to recover all the costs. There are certain services you provide for the general welfare and for returns that you don't necessarily see, a sense of community, and so many other things I've stated before. So if you're going to generate an MOU, I suggest not tonight, sit down with these organizations and say, what what works for you, what works for us as a city to administer what appears to be a fairly complex program of reservations, and that's where I'm at on it. And I'm not going to go back onto my other recitations about the value of youth sports and keeping youth busy. I still feel that way. Thanks.
Well, and I absolutely agree with the comment that there are services that government provides that are not zero sum, and that's still the case with the scheme that's here with the $3. I wonder if Mr. Waverly has a response to the administrative burden that might be caused.
To have we're reserving fields, whether it's through OCYS
Right.
or other groups that would reach out to us, so.
I have a hard time understanding the administrative burden.
Do you have someone within the city that the OCYS calls to make these arrangements?
Yes, every year we schedule their field usage.
Okay,
They send us a list, and
Is it our wonderful admin in Parks that's taking care of this?
yes.
Yes.
And it will be happening regardless of if we do this or not.
Right. I mean, there's some portion of an FTE, and I don't know what that is going to take care of this. And I don't think $30,000 gets you a whole bunch in the world of
Well,
public.
then let's jack it up then.
But the point is, they're already doing that. They're already making reservations and canceling rainouts and.
Yep.
Yeah, so this isn't an additional burden.
So I think we've had enough discussion on this, so I'm ready to make a motion.
I agree with you.
To approve item 9B, the memorandums of understanding for sports fields.
Second.
One more comment.
Sure.
So to me, it's not, we can debate the price back and forth all we want. But until those two organizations are in the room saying the city worked with us to come to an agreement and we are supportive of it and we weren't forced to sign it, which we still haven't seen. And the fact that they're not here tonight kind of makes me assume that what we'll do tonight is we'll make a decision. We'll hear from them to say, hey, we were forced to do this, or we didn't get a choice, or that the staff will say to them, the commission said this is the final decision and you got to follow it, which is what's going to happen. So I'm a no until I find.
So why aren't they here?
Well, that's a good question. Either they weren't invited or they were. I don't know. The staff says they were. They might be here because they couldn't be here. They might be here because they don't agree with it. Any of the number of factors. But knowing the issues with these MOUs in every group that I've talked to, it comes down to the relationship with the city and whether they were treated or negotiated right or whatever. And until I see any of these groups say, hey, this was fair and we can concede to it, I'm not voting for any of them.
I would just once again add or reiterate a comment I made in past conversations about this, which I understand the power differential and the need to work collaboratively. And I don't know the dynamics necessarily of what it's been between our park staff and the Oregon City Youth Sports and the other groups. But I'll also add that while it's important to maintain good customer service, it's also important to note that this is our property. And in the same way that the federal government and the state government and the local government maybe does not give us the best customer service when they take money from our pocketbooks every year to pay federal taxes, state taxes, local taxes for things that we are required to do. I do not see this as something that's different than that. This is a part of operating a government. We had someone come here requesting essentially a deferral of SDCs further. We are not requiring them we are requiring them to pay the SDCs because that's a part of operating in Oregon City. And so I see it as something no different than that.
Well, I'm basing my decision based on a knowledge of the interaction with these groups, which you claim that you maybe don't have. So that's the difference.
And I'm going
Call for the vote.
no, wait a minute. I'm going to concur with Commissioner Smith. If you vote, a yes vote on this tonight puts this document into effect as written. It doesn't give direction we're giving direction to you to work in collaboration with these organizations and come up with the most feasible, workable document that all parties involved can do. And that's where I think this needs to go. So I concur with Commissioner Smith.
Would you like to make an amendment to that, to the motion?
Well, I'm not going to vote yes on this because it then puts it into effect. So
Well, we can go back and, would you be willing to amend
we can give direction to
amend
the,
your, amend the motion?
Just take the vote.
To do what?
I didn't
To
make
amend
a
the
motion.
motion, he's talking about making sure that communication is a two-way street. I agree that we as a city need to take the first step and communicate, but if they were communicated and we don't hear anything, my expectation is, well, okay, is your silence mean you don't care or you didn't get I believe that you did reach out to them and tell them that, gee, be here, or they could have communicated to you, we can't come, but we want to do this or we want to do that.
Yeah, well, we plan on, like I said, we plan on meeting with both groups. OCYS had their board meeting on Sunday.
Since this draft came out?
What's that?
Have you been meeting with them before this draft came out?
This was sent to them, I don't recall the date that it was sent, but it was sent to them. The response that we got back from OCYS was that they had their board meeting and it was going to be this Sunday, and that we would be hearing back from them, so.
Well, I'd be willing to add an amendment that they work this out and then come back with signed documents.
my thought is the same as Commissioner Smith's. You walk in this room with those other two organizations, the three of you sit down and say, we have a workable document, and you got a yes vote, but not tonight, not for me.
The issue has been the fee. The issue has been the fee. It's been zero. We need direction from the commission on what they would like the fee to be. Now, whether someone, an organization wants to accept that or not is a decision that they need to make.
The issue is more than the fee, Mr. Conkle. The issue is how those operations conduct business, what they have to do in the event of a cancellation, what lead time they have to do.
But that's not
The
part
process.
of our project. That's not part of our.
Well, it's
There's
part
been
of
a
this
motion
agreement.
and a second. Let's go for the vote or remove it.
All right, go for the vote. I don't care.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
No.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
No.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
No.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion fails.
So, can we have a motion on setting the fee at $3? And then having them come back and work out all the other stuff?
I would move that.
Second.
Why would we separate that from the entire package? I mean, it's a package as a whole.
I don't want to get into the minutia of how the Parks Department schedules them for fields. I read this, I don't think that that's something that I need to get into the weeds about. This is the way the city does it, and this is the way they've always done it. Apparently, it's been somewhat satisfactory, but I think there's other things in here that they probably need to be sitting down if they're meeting on Sunday. If anybody from this group is, please communicate. Please let us know what's going on, because
Which was the 16th.
Yes.
It's already happened.
Oh, they had their meeting. Oh, this past Sunday. Okay, I
That's my
thought you
understanding.
said this Sunday.
No, it was last Sunday was their meeting.
So do we know what happened?
We have the report that they want to schedule a meeting to meet with us. I think some of the concerns were that the president has changed and we had the previous president's name. Those are minuscule
that's
things that
very
I think we can
minuscule, yeah.
work through
Oh,
together.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yep.
It goes further than that. It's about how those organizations conduct their day-to-day operations versus what this document calls for them to do, specifically lead times and rescheduling of fields. That's the perspective that the right thing to do is sit down with these two groups, hammer it out, walk in this door and say, hey, we got something that works for all of us. And then you get your yes vote and you're done.
Well, I still tend to agree with Commissioner Morrow. These fields belong to everybody, and if they want to reserve them, there is a program and a process to do that. It's not, their fields are not theirs. They belong to the entire city of Oregon City. So we have been generous and gracious to allow them to do this here. Looking at what all the other cities charge, it's just like, wow. I wish that we could get that amount of money too, because I know what other people are charging. So, want to vote? Yes, I second.
Just to confirm, it was a motion by Commissioner
$3.
Marl, second by Mayor McGriff for the $3 fee. Is that correct?
Yes, and then they will come back with everything
Did you make
else
that
at the
motion?
next meeting.
Okay.
Or
From
whenever
which-
they get together.
From which to satisfy what Commissioner Smith and O'Donnell are saying about having that further conversation, we need to at least have a formal adopted rate from the city commission.
Right,
in
which
order
is
to do that.
which is what Mr. Conkle has asked us for. So we'll do that. You'll go back, meet with these folks.
We might do that. We'll see at the vote.
Well, I hope that they'll do it regardless. So go ahead, Mr. Wiley.
Commissioner Mike
The
Mitchell?
votes, no, they can't do
Mr.
it.
Mitchell, did you want to say one more thing?
Yeah. Given the importance of what these two groups do for our city, for our youth, I don't want us to dictate terms. I think it deserves a negotiation. I also think there's a value to being able to reserve fields. But I think it's important that it be a negotiation and not a dictation by the city, recognizing what these two groups in particular do. So
I'm
I
going
can't
off-
support the amendment.
Well, I'm going off of your recommendation at the consensus, which that we charge $3. That's all we're saying.
And if you go back and listen, I
I did.
said, I'm going to throw out $3
Yes.
as a thought starter.
And we thought about it.
So
Okay.
are we going to be negotiating with every
I'm
single?
not negotiating the fee.
We're in the middle of a vote.
Why would,
One vote has been taken. Carry on with the call. Roll call.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell?
No.
Commissioner Adam Marl?
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell?
No.
Commissioner Rocky Smith?
No.
Mayor Denise McGriff?
aye.
Motion fails.
Thank you. We're not negotiating the fee.
Do we negotiate anything else for any other
No,
reservations?
no, we don't.
I don't understand that.
I'm not asking them to tell us what we think they should be charged, because they're going to say, well, we don't think we should be charged anything, and that is not right. I agree with you. There is a value to having a reservation. If not, I mean, let's just shut all the fields down and nobody can reserve anything.
Well, I think the matter's decided for
Yeah,
tonight.
so if you two want to discuss it, great, but the meeting's over unless we have
No, the
something else.
meeting is not over.
Well, let's get it over with. Let's go.
Mr. Conkle, do you have any communications for us this evening?
I do not.
Mr. Morrow, do you have any communications? Mr. Mitchell, you were giving a little recitation about your meeting that you had at 7:30? Not a resuscitation, maybe.
Resuscitation's more
I needed
accurate.
the resuscitation
You probably needed it
at 9
after the
a.m.
meeting. Yes, I would agree with that.
I guess I'm confused because I thought we covered those in our work sessions. So I didn't bring my notes,
I know, I'm just saying, we have communications and maybe that's
Okay.
communication.
not tonight.
Mr. O'Donnell?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Smith? Okay, I have a request. So those of you who are aware, the League of Oregon Cities annual meeting is coming up on October 12th, 13th, and 14th. I would like to know who is interested in going so that we can make arrangements.
Where is it?
It's in Eugene. It's going to be held at the I think I know which hotel it is. I think it changed its name, but it's called the Graduate in Eugene. And registration already has opened, and things are going to get filled up pretty fast. I will just say for the record, I will be attending the OMA, Oregon Mayors Association meeting, which is the day before, but I have vacation planned for the rest of it, and so I will not be able to attend the main conference, but I'll attend the mayor's portion, which is on the 12th. Mr. O'Donnell, No. Mr. Smith? Okay,
Wish I could, but I'm not available.
okay. Would you?
I will check on that.
Okay, all right, can you get back to me? Okay, thank you, all right. Being no further business, we're going to adjourn to, let's take a 5-minute break and adjourn at 9 for the executive session.